Now we're going to be talking about how to manage the workspace and also the flow of work in Claude. And this is something that I found very frustrating. So I'm going to explain um, why I found it frustrating and offer some tips for making it perhaps slightly easier. So this is the third part of the second lecture, all about Claude. Now, right from the word go, I think you've got to be very careful about generating lots and lots of what we call artifacts. Artifacts can be very useful, and if you can control when they're made, and there's always a create an artifact button that you can push, that's absolutely fine. But you don't want artifacts to pop up, because Claude has a tendency to start creating artifacts all the time. And you cannot delete an artifact without deleting the entire conversation in which it was created. And yeah, we'll get onto that in practice. I'll show you my workspace and the frustrations that I've had. You can keep the analysis tool, because it's not that great either. But and they say experimental, so they're obviously only in beta phases. So you can do that in your settings. So lower right corner, click your icon, go to settings, look for features, and then disable the artifacts. So yeah, it's really, with GPT, you can rename your chats, and it's not creating these things called artifacts. I mean, obviously there are custom GPTs. We'll be talking about those in the next lecture. And the own title thing is really an issue. Claude will select its own title, and then even if I tried to, in the first time, in my settings and in the first line of every prompt, I say, the title of this is whatever, and then it would add something like AI instructions. If I just said the title is just AI, it would just, anyway. And even if you're saying right at the beginning, do not create artifacts, and you keep telling it in case your instruction not to create an artifact drops out of the context window, it will keep creating artifacts. That's why I toggled that button and never create an artifact. I couldn't control it within any particular conversation by asking no artifacts to be created. And as I said before, you can't delete an artifact without deleting the chat that it's in, and I want to keep the chat. But the projects are actually quite good. That's comparable to GPT-5. So you've just got an additional description of the project that you don't get in GPT-5. Just like with OpenAI, they don't allow free users to make projects. You do have to be a plus subscriber in OpenAI to use projects. And here as well, with Claude, you have to be a pro subscriber to be able to build projects. And you can upload files, and you can give special instructions over and above your general settings. And those instructions you can optimize with, you can make it initially and optimize with Anthropic Console. So yeah. So here's one really useful project that I started. I stopped using Claude for it, but it did quite well. And so it's an AI integrated teaching and assessment. So I've got all the lecture notes from my financial risk management module here. And that's only using 25% of the project capacity. And each one of these is several megabytes. And these are the instructions. And so, yeah, that looks quite interesting. Shall we go and have a look at that project in more detail? Look behind the scenes. So this is that one. Oh, I don't want to try Opus. You can choose the model here. There are other models. There's that haiku one that I mentioned that doesn't have any internet capability. But I do find Sonnet the best one more generally, having tested them all. There's no point actually in using Sonnet 3.7 or even Opus 3, I think, in my view. All right, so if we look at the project instructions, I got these from Anthropic. They're very, very detailed. It's a set of workshops and assessments. I talked about just making one workshop in that previous video where I demonstrated the use of Anthropic, but this is a big project. It's using all these attached lecture notes to make the whole term of workshops and assessments. So you can change them whenever you want, but, yeah, and save them. Oh, cancel because I didn't change them, I suppose. And here we have the previous chat associated. So I started off with saying, read the instructions. And it goes on and on and on, rather than just saying, I've read them. It's using dialogue and letting me know what it's doing all the time. Doesn't always find relevant sections, images. So he's understood very quickly the task. And in my settings, I say, always ask questions. So here we are, they're asking questions, which is great, because I don't want it to just go and generate anything. And I say, I answer the questions. I want to enhance assessment formats with AI components. And then I explain what the assessments are. Now, question 2, what access will students have? See if we can design it around free tier. There are limitations, but they're pretty strict, particularly in Claude. There are no restrictions for the university policies, and students should be using Excel, and they're expected to know how to use that. And then I say that their AI background is mixed. Some of them are using it a lot, some of them aren't. And here we are. So after the questions, it's given me a whole structure for workshops. Not bad, eh? And this is just the first thing. I then have to take this away and think about it and analyze it. And yeah, but it's a good start. It saves me quite a bit of time by providing a sort of skeleton that I can structure my thought processes about. That's why they called it scaffolding. You know, it is like the scaffold that I can flesh out as I work in greater depth. So let's go back to the lecture notes. And so these are the instructions for the projects. Just showed you. Okay, let's carry on now, because this video would otherwise be quite short, and go to using projects to test Claude's analysis tools. So the analysis tools are like in browser, but it's code execution. It's supposed to be able to handle data analysis and complex maths. Well, let's see. So how do the analysis tools work? Well, Claude uses these things called papapass and lodash. Strange terms. Papapass just converts CSV files into data that JavaScript can easily work with. Maybe that's one of the issues that I found, was the way that that is done. And Lodash has got simple commands to filter data, change formats, find items, perform mathematical operations, handle data, and so forth. And so I tested 2 tasks, data analysis and complex maths, using Sonnet 4. And it just writes Python code for every task. It doesn't seem to be able to actually produce the output that I want in a PNG file. Opus was even worse. It just returned overload X. I think it's because it's got fairly limited, its daily message limit is very low. And in the complex maths, I asked GPT-5 to design the task, and it did it perfectly as well at the solution in 26 seconds. And then I asked it to put the task into latex code that hopefully Claude could read. So let's have a look at those. I'll show you the mathematical task after the data analysis. This is the prompt for the testing the data analysis. Okay, again, using Anthropic, but then I condensed it quite a lot. I do find Anthropic's prompts are a little bit too structured for me sometimes. But basically, this is just asking it to read a CSV file which contains prices of Bitcoin and Ether. These are 2 cryptocurrencies. And then to create a time series plot of the prices using different axes and different colors lines, and then put it into a PNG file that I can download, and I gave it the name of the PNG file that I want for the plot. And this is what, was it 25 seconds or 26 seconds, whatever. It didn't take ChatGPT very long in this case, but Claude simply refused to do it. I often find Claude just doesn't want to do it. I say, you can do it, go and do it. It seems to be rather lazy. So this is what I wanted. This is the, I'll show you when I switch to Claude, I'll show you the test and the results. But first, let's just explain this complex maths problem. This was set by ChatGPT, and it tells me the task. Okay, so you're given these data about some stochastic differential equations, and you've got some constant relative risk aversion utility over some fixed finite horizon. And this is what the 5 things that Claude needs to do. I won't go through the details because most of you watching this aren't going to understand what this is about. And it's just a test of Claude anyway. So I asked ChatGPT to mark Claude's responses. And basically it gave it 6 out of 10. It read the latex code, no problem. And it responded in latex very quickly, good step-by-step reasoning, set up the HJB, the Hamilton-Jacobi-Bellman equation, got the right control variables and the terminal condition, got the correct first-order conditions. But GPT saw that it made mistakes and there were some gaps and issues. So it was a solid mathematical setup. The ordinary differential equation handling and solution was wrong. So those errors were carried forward, but they rest on the wrong ordinary differential equation. The latex was lovely. So Claude's very good at coding, but it really is not going to compete with ChatGPT on this sort of thing. So it looks convincing. The algebra is flawed in the key nonlinear step. It would mislead a student unless it was carefully checked. So yeah, that's a bit of an issue, isn't it? Let's have a look at the tests in practice. So here I am back to my projects here, and here's the testing of the analysis tools. So this was the continuous time Merton problem, and this is its solution. this wrong. And I said, well, put it into latex, which you can do as well. But so that was the continuous time Merton problem. And the time series plot. So this is the prompt, and it says that it's going to do it. It understands it. And then it does everything in MATLAB. I'm sorry, in Python. And yeah, I mean, ChatGPT used Matplotlib as well, but it was looking at the documentation, set anyone what it's doing, and I don't want all this commentary. I said I don't want any extra commentary. I don't want any code output. All I want is a plot. So it just does it again. No, I don't want Python code. I want a plot. I understand. Okay, I'll do it for you. Let me create a time. I'm sorry, I can't. I cannot directly create and generate a downloadable PNG file from the CFC. As an AI assistant, I don't have the capability to execute the code and process. This is what you need to do. Oh, you need to use Excel and upload it and use Excel. I thought your analysis tool called can execute. You're supposed to be the tool that deals with CSV files. It's called the executable code part. Yes, you're absolutely right. I apologize for the confusion. I should be able to create this visualization, surely, shouldn't I? Oh, no, I can't. No, here it has. I have done it. I have done it. Where is it? Oh, no, and now it gets caught in a loop and then tells me to do it another way. And then I try to say, okay, well, can you do anything else with that data? What can you do? Some simple statistics, and it keeps spurting out all this code. And then it does actually tell me that that's what it is going to do. Oh, at least it's got the annualization. Square root of 365 instead of 250 because that's the number of trading days. Oh, I knew that. But where are the numbers? Okay, I had to keep asking it. And then it did give me some statistics and a correlation. And then, even though I didn't ask it to, it interpreted these things. So I wasn't really very pleased with that, to be honest. Yeah, that's the end of this part of the video, of the lecture. This is the end of the video, but end of this part of the lecture. The lecture will continue with, is it artifacts now? Can't remember. I think so.